Well, hey there. Y'all remember Jenna Rink wanting to be 30, flirty, and thriving?
I want to be 30. 30 and flirty and thriving.
Well, guess what? You can too! The last of my generation, the millennials, do not boo at me. Being a millennial is not a disease, so I don't want to hear it. Historically, our society has programmed women to be fearful of this decade because you have to start being an adult and your life becomes dull and boring and there's nothing to live for because you're past your prime. And anything else patriarchal and dehumanizing that is often imposed on us who pass a certain age. You know, bullshit that is just not true. I myself, being 31 going on 32, have a little bit of wisdom to pass down to those of you that are turning 30 or are already in your 30s and feeling like the good old days are way past behind you. But spoiler alert, it's just the beginning for you, hun. I had a professor in college that once said, the only cure to your 20s is your 30s. That has stuck with me to this day, and I'm here to inform all of you soon-to-be 30-something-year-olds and already 30-something-year-old queens out there that your best days are just ahead of you. And what my college professor reassuringly professed to I and the rest of my English class several years ago will stick with you just as much as it has stuck with me. First, we need to talk about why exactly we fear the third decade of our life and where this notion of being 30 is the age where you lose your youth and vitality came from, and how we cannot doom ourselves into such a miserable existence just for another year around the sun. And this is true for any age range. I would say age ain't nothing but a number, but that phrase has a new meaning now, and it's all R. Kelly's fault. But this video is specifically touching on the 30s because I see so many women online panicking about going into their 30s, and I'm just like, girl, the world is your oyster right the fuck now. Why the hell are you freaking out about the dating pool option shrinking for you? That's divine intervention, honey. So who the fuck planted this idea into our minds that being young stops when you're 30? Oh yeah, that's right, our male-dominated society. Now, I'm not going to make this into a battle of the sexes. Despite living in a time where women don't need to marry up so that they can make credit card purchases or rely on another's income to be able to support her well enough, our society is still so ingrained in this masculine way of existence that men still rule the roost in determining social norms, be it the workplace, the dating scene, the family unit, etc. and etc. You just asked what the point of that spiel was, and I'm gonna tell you. And my answer is, because we've lived in this masculine-led existence for so long, it's become so difficult for us to reprogram ourselves out of it and accept a more feminine, heart-centered existence. An existence that I can only describe as the one Elphaba tries to instill by defying gravity. No, I am not absolutely over wicked. I will never be over Wicked. Wicked is now my motherfucking personality. You're just Ken, I'm just Elphaba. I started a whole war recently on Threads with Wicked versus Barbie. So go follow me on Threads if you want to hear me yap more between weekly YouTube videos. And I have more Wicked related videos coming in the future. So subscribe if you also love Wicked. But anyway, I have ADHD. So please allow me to have my side tangents. Back to the masculine existence versus the feminine existence debate. I think you kind of get the gist on where I'm going with this. One of the expectations that this male-dominated society has projected onto us women is to have found a man and marry that man and have one or two children before the age of 30. If you think about it, as little girls, we are programmed for a domestic existence. Why do you think toy manufacturing companies make so many baby dolls? For example, I used to have a specific baby doll called Make Me Better Baby. This was an animatronic doll with the push of an on and off button. The baby doll would cry to communicate her feeling sick and needing medicine. Her ear would light up red to indicate an earache, and her cheeks would light up red to indicate a cough. And it was only until you made her better with pretend medicine that she would start giggling and let you know that she was no longer sick. Wish it worked that way for us humans, and all the princess fairy tales that were read to us as well.
But the pretty, affable good girl always does what she is told and gets the guy in the end.
Lives happily ever after, all that. But nobody tells you about after the happily ever after, do they? So I think you get the point that I'm trying to make now. When us women reach a certain age and we haven't reached these particular milestones that have been ingrained to our subconscious minds from the society that we live in, these so-called age-appropriate milestones, we can get really down on ourselves and fear that we're not good enough, that we're unlovable, that we're defective, or some other self-defeating adjective. Even me, I'm not immune to feeling this way sometimes, but I know at the end of the day, all of those things are entirely false. And I'm still reprogramming my mind from being brought up in a sexist, misogynistic culture that says women should be seen and not heard. A culture that makes us feel if we haven't accomplished these things, that we're too
old and washed up.
Which gives me the feminine urge to present to you the word of the day, and that is mature. Now, there are a few definitions of what mature means. Let's take the advanced stage definition, shall we? And if you said no, then get the fuck about my video. I think too many people are using the word old in connotation with mature. But when I think of someone who is old, I think of someone who is cranky, not being open to change or a new way of doing things. Kind of like Tom Hanks's character in A Man Called Otto. If you haven't seen that movie, Tom Hanks's character plays an old curmudgeon that is often associated with the archetypal old geezer that shouts,
"Get off my lawn, you filthy brats!"
But when I think mature, I think of someone who is wise, who has been through the bullshit, and who is open to new points of views. Kind of like Dolly Parton. She may have been around for a long time, but she still has retained her love of life and doesn't seem to be really stuck in her ways that many in her generation are prone to falling into. So next time you call yourself old, think to yourself, am I actually old? Or am I just mature? Because maturity is golden. Maturity is having wisdom to pass down to other generations to not make the stupid mistakes that you did. Maturity is knowing your worth. Maturity is knowing your boundaries and your true desires. Now, I'm challenging you, the viewer, to post on one of your social media accounts. 30 is the new 20. I didn't come up with that. I've just been seeing that in different places and want to pass that along. And I think what many people mean by when they say 30 is the new 20 is that in the past, the age 20 seemed a lot more adult-like. You saw people getting their first big girl, big boy jobs. You saw people getting hitched or having their first kid. But these days, people on the brink of turning 30 or already well into their 30s are more oftentimes starting to pursue careers that are more fulfilling to them, and that they have a passion for working in instead of just settling for something like a dreary 9-to-5 or anything else that fills them with existential dread but brings in good money. This is a direct reflection of how we're starting to value ourselves more by pursuing something that we're good at, but also adds value to the world. The value you put in yourself is the value that you add to the lives of others. And when you value yourself, how does that make you feel? And if you're not starting your own business or you don't have the desire to, we're seeing at least more people reach the prime of their careers. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo just fulfilled their musical theater childhood dream roles as Elphaba and Glinda, and they're in their 30s. So this decade is only the beginning, honey bunches of oats. Don't go throwing away your potential just because you're not a 20-something-year-old anymore. And as far as relationships go, platonic and romantic, I have great news to share in that department. Your options are not shrinking. You just know what you want and need out of your interactions and have a better idea of what your boundaries are. As we get older, we often think that our social circle is shrinking and we're running out of options to choose people to befriend or couple up with. When you're in your 20s, you're willing to put up with so much bullshit in your relationships that you're willing to do anything to keep people around as to keep yourself from feeling lonely. But once you turn 30, that way of thinking gets old very fast. And you realize that you're even more lonely in the wrong company. It finally gets ingrained to your head that alone does not equal lonely. We hear that a lot, but after you've been through the ring with certain people and their drama, you're just like, this is why I graduated high school, so I wouldn't have to get involved with people's pettiness and toxic behavior. So yeah, your 30s are much more socially peaceful. You know who the real ones need to be, and who the superficial ones are so that you can just leave them alone. And you just overall know yourself better. I mean, well, duh, I know. But I mean in the sense that you're more aware of your shortcomings. What gets you excited, what drains you, what gives you confidence, which gives you the confidence to say no to things that you need to say no to. It's one of the most aggravating parts about being in your 20s, feeling like you have to please everyone so you can just simply survive and not be socially rejected. But once you reach decade 3, you're just like, out of here with that mess. If the thought of doing something doesn't vibe with your soul, you know you'll be okay if you peace out and tell them all to go to hell. Well, I don't literally tell them all to go to hell if they didn't do anything to warrant that response, but you know what I mean. So the bigger question I have for you here is, how do we get rid of the stigma of not just turning 30, but just age in general? Because until we all die, we're all taking another trip around the motherfucking sun. It's so ingrained in our minds to think of ourselves as less than with each passing year as we see our face change, people treating us differently because of the number that we're assigned to that indicates how long we've been on this planet Earth. I personally think at least part of the solution is to start confronting our obsession with youth and stop associating health, beauty, vitality with age and whatever else the fuck that we value in humans. Just because someone is young in age doesn't automatically make them the shining example of the human ideal. Like my friend Shannon says, who you should hire as your life coach, by the way, you're only as old as you feel. Something that has also stuck with me, and that I pass on to you in hopes that it will stick with you just as much. So yes, indeed, next time you 30-something-year-olds out there call yourself old, remember everything I said in this video, write it down, save this video, whatever you gotta do to lock it in your brain to help you remember that you're about to stumble upon the best years of your life. If you're a fellow 30-something-year-old, let me know what your favorite part about being in your 30s is so far. Or if you're about to turn 30, let me know what you're most looking forward to about being in your 30s. Or perhaps if you are by chance past your 30s, let me know what the best part about being in your 30s was. And if you have any piece of wisdom that you would like to pass down to me and other 30-something-year-olds or about to be 30-something-year-olds out there, we'd love to hear it. Thank you for watching. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And if you and I are vibing, let's vibe some more in the future by pressing that button on your screen that says
Subscribe!
you'll want to do that. Because when I get 1,000 subscribers on this channel, I'm going to use it as an opportunity to give back to my local community by donating all of my used books that are just dying to be read by new eyes. In addition to finally sharing my secret YouTube channel that has the potential to ruin my reputation once it becomes public. It's not that bad. It's just my super cringe, embarrassing alter ego. I can't tell you any more details than that until you find the subscribe button and you just simply tap it like this. Bing! That way you can get notified every time I have a new video. And that's a wrap. Ow. Bye.